There are plenty of indie games that I absolutely adore for one reason or another. Games like Guacamelee, Shovel Knight, and Freedom Planet show that even small groups of dedicated video game fans can make something fun. However, one indie game has always stuck out the most to me. One man's passion project that can be described as a work of art. I'm referring to Dust: An Elysian Tale. This game is the result of Dean Dodrill's desire to make his own game with his own style. But does it truly earn its reputation? Across the land, there was a great war! An entire race was hunted to near extinction! And then you wake up in the middle of the forest with total amnesia, see a floating sword that can talk, and also meet a creature known as a Nimbat. Yeah, that's a little bit jarring to say the least. Traveling outside the forest, you eventually reach Aurora Village, and are asked to see what's happening at Abadi's forest. And what's happening is a delusional pyromaniac going utterly ham on a defenseless village. That took a turn for the worst fast. After defeating him, Dust hears him mention a figure named General Gaius, and Dust decides that he needs to pay. There's definitely more to the story for sure, but I don't want to spoil it too much. Plus, the meat of it is best experienced firsthand, so let's move on. The most striking thing out of the gate is this game's art style. Dust looks utterly gorgeous with its pseudo-anime art style. All the colors pop in all the right ways, Dust and the enemies are beautifully animated, and the soundtrack is utterly gorgeous. But what's also really impressive is simply how the backgrounds of these areas look. All of them look like they've received just as much care and attention as the area they're in, and that's really admirable. And of course, when you're attacking enemies, it's truly a sight to behold. Speaking of which, Dust is a Metroidvania with a heavy focus on combat. You do plenty of exploring of these huge areas, but the bulk of your time will just be spent annihilating anything that dares look at you funny. Using the Blade of Ara, Dust can utilize a few combos, but most importantly, use the Dust Storm technique both on the ground and in the air. On its own, it's a neat way to extend combos, but in combination with attacks by your companion Fidget, it's just feels so good! As you attack enemies, your combo meter will fill. The higher your combo, the more bonus experience you'll get after the battle is over. However, there's a trade-off. Getting hit just once will cause you to lose your combo. And yeah, it sucks. The experience you earn from battle will net you skill gems. These can be used to increase Dust's max health, attack, defense, as well as powering up the Dust Storm and Fidget's projectiles. The best part is you have total freedom over how you build Dust, which is pretty cool. You can also increase your stats with gear that you can find and craft with the Blacksmith and Archer's Pass. Enemies drop materials, and by using said materials, you can make new gear from blueprints. As you progress through the game, you'll obtain new abilities to help you explore. These include a slide, ivy climb, double jump, and the boost jump to gain some serious air from air currents. In the two towns of the game, Aurora Village and Mudpot, you can also take on side quests that let you experience money and items. These typically involve you just finding something, but they're not too far out of your way. As you can see, Dust has quite a bit to offer, but how much do I like? Jeez, where do I begin with what I love about this game? How about something simple? The joy of the combat. Because of the incentive to get high combos, I try to be as intricate as possible, constantly flowing from one move to another, and it feels incredible. Adding to this, Dust handles like an absolute dream. He's ultra responsive, has just the right amount of weight to his movements, and I never once had issues with getting him to go exactly where I wanted him to. As well as this, the areas themselves are beautifully designed, both aesthetically and layout-wise. I think my favorite area is the Blackmore Mountains. Not only does the snowfall look utterly gorgeous, but the music fits the area so well, feeling adventurous and yet a bit ominous at the same time. While on that topic, I love this game's soundtrack! Every music piece fits the areas you're in flawlessly and really adds to the ambience. What's also really cool is all the references sprinkled into these areas, from simple things like finding chicken inside walls you destroy or certain quotes from characters, but one always stuck out to me. In the Ceremone Caverns, you find this red orb, and it seems to do nothing. But then you find the swollen Blackmore Mountains, crouch beside it, and after a few seconds, a tornado takes you to a secret area. Then Fidget comments that made absolutely no sense. That is genius! Lastly, the numerous upgrades you get throughout the game are just a joy to use and make exploration so much fun, especially since there's always a payoff for going off the beaten path. Alas, not everything in this tale can be joyous. When it comes to things I dislike about Dust, there isn't much, but I do need to discuss them. First is the issue with backtracking. Granted, this is an issue the entire Metroidvania genre has to some degree, and you can go back to the world map from any save point provided you have a teleport stone, but it would have been really nice if you can go from one save point to another in the same area. It isn't too bad, but it can get annoying at times. Most of the enemies in the game aren't really noteworthy, but there are two I want to make special mention of. These huge troll enemies can only be damaged when you parry their attacks, which will drop their shields. This isn't too difficult, but running into them can kill the pace of the combat a bit. But they are nothing compared to the slimes! Not only can they take a ridiculous amount of damage early on, but they're the only enemy in the game that can attack you in the air while they're on the ground. It doesn't matter where you are in relation to them, they will effortlessly end your combos often, and it is quite annoying. A majority of the bosses are just not good. They mostly boil down to a war of attrition, and they can easily be caught in a loop if you know what you're doing. But then there's the part of the game I always dread, Sorrowing Meadow. I will say this before I vent. I really like the aesthetic and the story for this area. I think it's well done. What I don't like is just how long this one area takes. You have to head to each of the mansions in the 4 corners of the meadow and claim an item from each. That's already a bit of a pain on its own, given you have to backtrack 4 times in the same area, but when you're actually in a mansion, you're chased by this creature that you can't kill. So not only is the trek to each mansion long and dull, but the mansions themselves are really stressful. And all this leads up to easily the worst boss of the game. Remember I said how the others are just a war of attrition? This boss takes that to its logical extreme. Not only can he summon enemies to interrupt your attacks, but he can also inflict Fidget with silence from just about anywhere, preventing her from using her projectiles. Granted, you can heal it easily, but the fact you have to do it so often just makes this fight a colossal pain. This doesn't come close to ruining my enjoyment of the game by any means, and the area right after is the Blackthorn Mountains, which is my favorite. I just never look forward to doing the Sorrowing Meadows because of how tedious it is. At the end of the day, while this game isn't perfect by any means, I still find it to be a great time. Every time I pick it up, I am just filled with joy. When I'm not in the Sorrowing Meadows. Ugh. Even 4 years later, this is still my favorite indie game, so it should come as no surprise that I'm giving Dust an Elysian Tale in S rank. Until next time, this has been Aerodragon, signing out.